Hey, you guys, this week we're talking about the big question, how did I get here and what to do about it? Have you ever had a part in your life where you have just drifted so far, where your life has just gone so far off course that it seems like a better idea just to quit? Maybe you look at your marriage and you sit there and wonder, oh my gosh, how did we get here? How do we get to this point? Seems like quitting would be easier than trying to backtrack. Or maybe you look at your finances and you're like, it's just a mess. Maybe we just quit. Maybe we just quit trying and just let that debt continue to accumulate. What do we do when we feel like we need to quit? My friends, I have been in ministry for 23 years. Oh my gosh, that's such a long time. I started at North Cape Lutheran Church in Franksville, Wisconsin on May 1st, 2000. And North Cape was this very special place to me. It was this very special church. I was a teen mom, if you've been around Calvary and heard my story before, and I still knew that I was called into ministry, and I had applied at all these churches, and a lot of them said, no, we aren't interested in having someone with kind of your story. I mean, I kind of read between the lines. But North Cape, they said, you know what? You're human, and we cannot wait to welcome you onto our staff at our church. And so 23 years ago, I started ministry. In those 23 years, I've gotten the great privilege to serve 4 different churches throughout that time. And sometimes, actually often, I sometimes wonder, how am I still in this? My friends, ministry is hard. It's harder than I ever imagined that it would be. And I want to share with you why I've never quit. It was a couple months, a few years ago, when I was serving at Grandview University and Luther Memorial Church. It was kind of a partner position between a church and a college. And I'll be honest, I had 1 week in there that was really, really hard. I got a phone call in the middle of the night from one of my students who had just been raped. And so I went and I picked her up, and we went to the hospital and did the whole rape kit thing. And she cried and she cried. And there was so much brokenness and not a lot that I could say. We took care of her. We did all the necessary things. And then I took her home. I walked with her for the next months and years after that. But it was like just a week later when I got another phone call. And one of my students, who I just loved and adored, she decided she didn't want to live anymore. And so she took a whole bottle of her best friend's pills. The best friend had called and said, I don't know what to do. So we called 911. We got the cops there. We got her to the hospital. We got her stomach pumped. And thank God she lived. She spent the next couple of weeks in that hospital getting some really deep care. When I was at this point, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. My heart hurt and broke for these girls in ways that I couldn't even imagine. I saw, when I looked at them, nothing but bright futures. And these things that happened to them was so heavy and so hard when they were so young. I went to my office after I left the hospital that night with my student, and I typed out my full resignation letter, but I didn't send it. I thought, when I left the church that day, I thought, you know what? I'll send it in the morning, but I am done. I am done with ministry. I'm done with seeing people suffer. I figured a nice job at a coffee shop where I could make people happy with my job. I thought that this would be a better solution. It would probably pay better too. And then I went home, knowing in my head that I had quit. I felt like my shoulders were more relaxed, and I felt like I was just done. But here's the truth. I've written those letters a lot in 23 years of ministry. I've written dozens of resignation letters. I've only actually resigned 3 times, and that was only because God was moving me to another ministry location after that. I haven't even had a break in between them. But I think what it was is in those moments when it was super, super heavy, I think I felt freer to have the option to leave ministry context. I just wanted the freedom to make that choice if I wanted to walk away from what I knew that what I've always known that God has called me in to do for my life. I mean, I can't imagine a better way to spend my life than to join God in God's work in the world. But sometimes it just feels so hard. And those times when I type out a little resignation flag letter, it's like I raise my white flag. I just surrender. I think often when we think about surrendering, we often think of it as quitting, as giving up, as being on the losing team. But what if we reframed it and actually really thought about surrendering as not a passive thing, but a aggressively active thing? There are times in our lives when the best thing that we can do is to quit hustling and quit trying so hard. There are times in our life where we find ourselves drifting and we're trying so hard to course correct. There's times in our life when God calls us to this posture of openness. This posture of openness to what's next, this posture of openness to releasing control, to acknowledging that we can't do it all and we were never actually meant to do it all. This posture of just letting go. When Jesus talked about surrendering, it was an active kind of verb. It wasn't this passive sort of thing. Jesus told his disciples, if anyone wants to be my disciples, let them take up their cross and follow me. So actually, in order to be Jesus' disciple, in order to surrender and follow Jesus, you actually have to carry your cross with you. So today, wherever you find yourselves asking the question, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Whether it's your job or your finances or your relationships or your health or your situation, whatever it is, I want to invite you not to quit. I want to invite you to surrender. Invite God into that situation. Invite God into that place where you find yourself. And invite God into that place where you feel like your life has just drifted all the way off course. Now, here's the truth. I haven't quit. I've done some really hard work in these 23 years, and I'm sure there's lots and lots more hard work to be done. But in those times when it gets hard, it's important to remember to surrender to the grace of God. And I've gotten the privilege to do that more times than I can count. So my friends, whatever tough thing you are going through right now, don't quit, but surrender. Invite God into it.